Hello, welcome to your brief tutorial on how to access the adapted curriculum and deliver that adapted curriculum for extended school year. In order to access that curriculum, you are going to go to your extended school year schedule expectations checklist. Once you are on that checklist, you are going to navigate to the week that you are in. Let's use week 2 for an example. Week 1 is going to be spent getting that getting that baseline data, doing those benchmarks, doing those checkpoints, getting kids adapted or used to their environment here at ESY. And you're also going to be working on creating those student materials, right? The student materials that are going to travel from home to school to home, getting their diapering material, their feeding supplies, medications, personal effects, those sorts of things, getting a bathrooming schedule, a feeding schedule, everything you need to get students ready for the summer, for extended school year. So in week 2, you are going to begin the adapted curriculum, and that adapted curriculum can be accessed a number of ways. One way is to go ahead and click on this adapted curriculum link, and it is going to open a slides presentation. You can use this slides presentation to navigate through all of your adapted curriculum materials. This is also a great tool for if you are not going to be there on a certain day and you need support staff to be able to access those materials. This is a quick and easy way to access the materials and make sure that they are using the correct lessons for the week. So you're going to open this and you're going to put it in a slides mode, and then you're going to click through and pretty much just follow the directions, right? And then you have my email here if you need any support with these curriculum resources, and please feel free to reach out at any time. Or if you see me in the hallway, just flag me down and I'll be able to support you with accessing these materials and delivering these materials as well if you have questions. All right, so once you get to these little bubbles, these little circles, you are going to see the different grade levels. By clicking on these grade levels, it is going to navigate you to those slides. So let's just use middle school as an example. Click on middle school, and then you are going to click on the week that you're currently in. Let's use week 2 as an example. So up in the top left corner, you are going to see these two bubbles that will let you know that you are in the right week. So middle school, week 2, beginning on 7/7. So that's how you'll know you're in the right suite of materials here. Let's use ELA as an example. So you'll click on ELA and that will take you to your curriculum for the week. This is what you're going to be accessing this week. You're going to go into slideshow mode and you're going to be able to verify by seeing the first slide of the presentation. So ELA, ESY, middle school, and it's going to be week 2. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to go through the parts of this lesson, and we are going to kind of unpack how this should be delivered and how to access the different things within the lesson correctly. So I always like to start a lesson, and you'll see it's on every single lesson, math, ELA, you're going to see it on science as well. I like to start with my steps to critical thinking and problem solving, and I go over those steps with the kids in the class. So I'll say I'll either put this on a voice output device, or I will give them some visuals to touch, or for my verbal students, I'll have them recite those. So I'll say, let's talk about our steps to critical thinking and problem solving. Listen to the question, listen to all of your answer choices, think about your choices, and answer the question by choosing one of the answer choices. All right, once you're done with that, you are going to go into your kind of pre-test, but they're also checkpoints, right? So I know people who deliver these every single day, and that's fine. That's great. Those are data points for you for like formative assessments, those sorts of things. You can use them for IEP goal data. You're probably going to have students, a lot of students, who have an IEP goal for identifying key details. Well, this is a great data point for that goal. So personally, I take data on this actually every single day of the lesson, especially since this is only going to be taught for a week. And you're going to notice that while the story remains the same, the questions change. The questions are going to be checkpoint questions from the checkpoints themselves. So when you give that baseline assessment, that checkpoint, at the beginning of ESY, you're going to notice the questions from the checkpoint are going to exist as formative assessments, these different little mini assessments at the beginning of every single lesson. And that is meant to prepare them, make sure that they are accessing this information for all the weeks of ESY until we do that end of summer assessment or the end of summer checkpoint. All right, so first you'll go through it and you'll read this story. I like to read it aloud. The reason I do that is for fidelity, really. If you have a student read this or one of your students in the classroom, there is a chance that they may miss some words. There may be some, like, stopping, lack of fluency. And when you're taking data on this, you want to make sure that you are truly mirroring Extend 1 testing, right? And Extend 1, it indicates that we read the story and the student answer the question. So I would say don't let students read this one per se. Go ahead and read this one aloud and ask those questions. So you'll read this story, and then you'll see at the end of the story, there are some questions. You are going to ask these questions. You can break up into small groups, have these questions asked by your TAs individually for the students, be taking that data. Or if you've done this Monday, you've done this Tuesday, you've done this Wednesday, it's okay to go ahead and make this a whole group interaction, right? Or if you want to start off with it being a whole group interaction, asking the whole class, modeling, answering these questions, you could do that on Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can go ahead and give them to the students separately and get all those data points. That's really up to you. How you access this piece of the lesson is really up to you, but make sure you're taking data on this part because it is excellent data. It's really good for these key details, right? So you're going to see that while every week there are different questions here at the beginning, they're still related to that story and they're still talking about key details in the text. So you'll go through those questions and then it's going to bring you to this page. So usually what this sounds like for me is I'll say, all right, we're going to watch an anticipatory set video. After we're done, I'm going to ask you a question about what we're talking about today. So I will let the kids pick one of these or one of these songs. You can either have them vote, you can have a student come up and touch the board, and you're just going to go ahead and let's say they pick this one at the end. You're going to play that. In order to get it into presentation mode, you're going to press that little button in the corner. And when you're done, you just press the escape button. So I don't know if you heard me, but this little icon, the square in the corner, is going to put it into full screen. And when you are done, you're just going to press the escape button on your keyboard. It's going to go ahead and take you to back to the slides. And then once you're in those slides, I like to say, hey, make sure you go ahead and make it into a full screen again. But yeah, that's just preference. So you're going to go ahead and go to the next slide, and then you're going to ask the question. You're going to say, based on the anticipatory set, what do you think we're going to learn today? Learn about today. Amusement parks, calendars, or fractions. And you want to go ahead and have these printed out. Make sure you're going over these lessons at the beginning or before you teach them so that you can print out these different pages. What I like to do with these is I will just print them on a piece of paper, like a full paper, and I'll have the students select from there if they're able. If they're not able, you can go ahead and cut these out, make them separate answers. If they're choosing from a field of 2, you can give them a field of 2. If they're choosing using their cheeks, like they're tapping their cheeks with the answer, maybe you have a student who's visually impaired, you can go ahead and have it from a field of 2 and have them tapping. If you have a student who's doing partner-assisted scanning, and you need support with that for that student, it would look like, let's say, you're asking the student individually, what are we going to talk about today? Is it amusement parks? You give them yes or no. Is it calendars? Yes or no. Is it fractions? Yes or no. And that would be an example of partner-assisted scanning. Next, you're going to go to your main idea, your theme page, and you're going to say, this week, we're going to talk about an amusement park is a place that features various attractions, such as rides, events, and games. So this week, we're going to talk about amusement parks. You're going to give them that main idea statement separate. Amusement parks are fun. So this is not this is not a standards-based statement per se. This is just a content statement. What's the theme? What are we talking about? So for all of ESY, the theme for ULS is going to be amusement parks. And so our statement here is going to be really focusing on the theme, not necessarily the content or the main idea or fractions or geometry, those sorts of things. This is really that content statement. Next, you're going to do a warm-up activity. So let's talk about what this is going to look like. Every time you see an icon that looks like this, a screen grab that looks like this, it is going to take you to something in ULS that you will access in a live interactive platform. So let's go ahead and click and take a look. So it's going to prompt you to go to Unique Learning Systems page here, and it's going to go straight into the activity. So you don't need to navigate, you don't need to search for the activity. It's going to take you straight into the activity. In this activity, you can work on it as a whole group, you can work on it as a small group, you can work on it one-to-one. It really is up to you in your classroom. This is just a warm-up to get them ready. What I like to do is I will take these page by page. So maybe on Monday, I'll do 2 of them. On Tuesday, I'll do 2 more. On Wednesday, I'll do 2 more, like that sort of thing. It's really up to you. But the idea is by the end of the week, you've done all of the warm-ups because you're going to be teaching this 4 times, right? So this gives you plenty of content to have warm-ups where you're not necessarily repeating if you don't have to. So that is what your warm-up is going to look like. Next, you're going to talk about the repeated storyline. Like I said, that's that content statement. Amusement parks are fun. And then you're going to talk about the different vocabulary words. So this is our repeated storyline. Our repeated storyline is amusement parks are fun. Put that on a voice output device. Have our students who are nonverbal communicators tap that voice output device so that they can communicate that repeated storyline. Next, I like to put the vocabulary words on the voice output device as well. So a sequencer is great for this. So you might say, here are our vocabulary words: choose, down, and fast. We are going to explore the different definitions for what each of these words mean. Then you're going to go through each definition. Our first word is choose. Do you know the definition of choose? And then you'll see, especially if I do a model lesson for you, that I love the use of voice output devices. I think they're excellent for increasing engagement. So you will see how I use them in action if you see a model lesson from me. If you don't see a model lesson from me, just an example is I might put those words on a voice output device in order. So choose, down, and fast. And I might say, can you tell me the first vocabulary word that we are going to define? And they'll say choose. And then I will say the definition. And same thing with each of these. What's our next vocabulary word? Who can tell me the next vocabulary word? And maybe you have a verbal communicator in your classroom who can read it. Okay, call on them. They say it's down. You give the definition and you go over each of those with the students. Next, you're going to come to a little warm-up page because the vocabulary component is a high engagement moment for the students, and it's going to ask or last you about 5 to 10 minutes, let's say. It's time for a little decompression moment. So you're going to go ahead and play this story. You don't have to do this every time. This is just the one that's built into the lesson. This is just the one that's built into the lesson. You can make this a song. You can search your own on YouTube. That's totally up to you if you want to switch it out every day. But it's also okay to play this one every single day. The evidence shows that our students need significant repetition. Our students with the most severe cognitive differences need that significant repetition. So it is okay to repeat it. Now, you might be pulling your hair out by the time you're finished reading this story for the 4th time, but it really is an evidence-based practice for our students to get as much repetition as possible. So if you want to read this one every single day, go ahead, read this one every single day. Once you're done with that little break moment, you're going to go ahead and click your different day of the week. We're actually going to go through each of these because these look different every single day. So let's say it's Monday. You're going to go ahead and click on Monday, and that's going to bring you to the Guiding Monday slide. When you are ready to do your whole group, you're going to click on Whole Group, and it's going to take you to this activity. Now, this activity is actually broken up after this slide. So you can either do it within the slides. Maybe you do that for the first day and you go through and you really take the time to go through it and you're doing that with the class. That is totally fine. But I recommend doing the interactive platform. So you're going to click on that interactive button like we said before, and it's going to bring you to unique learning systems directly to the activity itself. And then you can just go ahead and go through this vocabulary activity. You can do a different amount every single day. But in this particular lesson, you're going to see that our words are going to be like the first couple of words, right? So I like to take them 3 at a time. One, two, three, one, two, three, one, two, three. You'll see that it's 112 slides down here. That's because this is all of the vocabulary. Unfortunately, Unique Learning Systems does not break this up into smaller lessons. So you are going to have to navigate and move through these vocabulary words and decide how many your class is able to palette and how many you want to do for that day. All right. So let's say that you are done with your Monday. You've already ready to move on. You can go ahead and click that little tiny Monday button in the corner. It's going to bring you back here. Here are some different things you can do during the day. So I like to always do the whole group first. Do that whole group every single day. Small group is going to be IEP goals. So if you click on small group, this is a time for you guys to break up either into small groups, individual, whatever fits your classroom. Like I say, a lot of these things are dependent on your population in your room. But you're going to see when you go to this slide, it just gives you a 30-minute song break. It's going to be relaxing music. But it's also going to have a timer for 30 minutes. At the end of the timer, it's going to make a little noise and it's going to tell you you're done with IEP goal time. If you need more time, go ahead and reset that clock, do another 30 minutes. It is really truly based on your classroom needs. Once you're done with that IEP goal time, you can go back to your Monday slide. Now, this is where it gets, I mean, again, up to you. Let's say you spend more time on small group. Okay, that's how you spend your time. And you only got to whole group and small group that day. Let's say the next day, you have a little bit more time. You spend a little less time on small group, right? Because we want at least 2 data points per week for our students for their IEP goals, just like you would in the middle of the regular school year, right? But let's say you have some additional time. So at least once in the week, we want you to be reading the text. And when you click on that text, it's going to bring you to the slide with the text. Here, you can navigate to the interactive platform by clicking here, or you can also access the PDF to the text. I always recommend printing out that PDF for the text, and you're probably going to have a couple students in your class who will need to access that text close up or should be accessing that text in more of a paper platform. So when you click on that PDF, it is going to bring you to the PDF and it's going to give you the pages in the story. So go ahead and print those out as needed. But I always like to have at least one copy of these in my classroom. When you go to the interactive platform, you're going to click here and it's going to take you to the story. Some ways that I like to engage my students is I like to give them a turn the page option and a repeated storyline. So some of our students will be responsible for the repeated storyline. Some will be responsible for turning the page, right? Do that as much as possible. That is student engagement. You will be pleasantly surprised at how much that increases engagement for your students. And it makes it, I mean, less boring for us too as teachers. Put a teacher's assistant next to 2 students who are responsible for the repeated storyline and help them to access that. Maybe you do that one day, maybe you do a different set of students. It's really up to how your classroom is working, how much staff you have in your room, and how many students you have in your room. So that's a great way to engage. Go through the title, point it out explicitly, go through the author and the illustrator, point those out explicitly and talk about their jobs, like their roles. And then you're going to go through and read the story. Keep doing that repeated storyline. The repeated storyline is amusement parks are fun. And turn the page. Turn the page, amusement parks are fun. You can either read this, you can have a student read this, or you can click this button on the side that says speak the page. So that's a great way to engage students as well. Maybe you have a student who can either do a voice output device and say, read the page, or you can have a student who is able to manipulate the buttons on the board and you can have them press speak the page. Or something I do to increase engagement is on the voice output device, I'll say something like, go, Miss Bo, keep reading, or you got this, keep on reading, or read, 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 like something that is just a statement that encourages me to keep reading, right? And what I like to model here is stamina. I like to show students that we need stamina and we need to give ourselves like our own hype game in order to keep going through these because it really is a lot of strain on a lot of our students to get from start to finish on a page. So I like to model that for them. And the way that would look is I would start reading and I would say, next, Addie goes to the games. She sees a dunk tank. She sees a dunk tank game, a balloon dart game, and a ring toss game. And I would take a deep breath and I would say, I need a little encouragement. Can you guys help me? Can you encourage me? And I'll go over with my voice out to put device to a student, have them activate it, and I'll say something like, you got this, Bo. Keep on reading. And then I'll keep on reading. And I'll go sentence by sentence and I'll ask for encouragement from the students so that I can keep reading. That's just something you can do on one of the pages or every other page or something like that. But it keeps them engaged. So it isn't like a like just droning on, right? That can be really helpful to increase that engagement. So those are just some tips that I like to give to increase that engagement for students. Another thing that you'll see on that page for Monday is a census activity. And this is what it looks like. You can do this in a variety of ways. But I always like to say, if there's something at the top of the page, read it, because don't ever assume that students are going to remember it from the day before. You're going to have students that need you to read this every single day. So read it every single day. Teach to that population. You can't do too much, right? So let's do our census activity for this lesson. Move the books to reveal something related to this lesson that you can experience with your senses. So first, I like to touch on these senses. Smelling, hearing, seeing, touching, taste. You can say, I use my nose to smell. Can you touch your nose? I use my ears to hear. Can you touch your ears? Those sorts of things. It just depends on how you want to review them. Then you're going to go through each book. So, what can we smell at an amusement park? We can smell popcorn at an amusement park. What can we hear at the amusement park? We can hear laughter at the amusement park. This is usually where I try to increase that engagement and I will ask what I just told them. So I will I'll do a check for understanding. So I'll say, which one of these can we smell at the amusement park? And I'll give them the visuals of laughing or popcorn. Which one can we smell at the amusement park? Is it laughing or popcorn? Remind me. They make a selection. Maybe you ask more than one student and then you move on, right? Something you can see at an amusement park is a roller coaster. Something that you can touch at the amusement park are prizes like a soft teddy bear or a bouncy ball. What is something that you can see at the amusement park? You got to make sure that you are being appropriate with these, right? Because you can see popcorn and you can see prizes. So, like, if you want to try and trick them, that's fine. But like, I don't try to trick anybody, right? Because they might be thinking like, well, I can see prices. Like, that might not be the thing that's on the board, but like, I can see that. So I like to say, what's something that you can see at the amusement park? Is it laughing or roller coasters? Because you can't see laughter, right? You hear laughter. Maybe you can see somebody laughing, but you can't see laughter. So, I would give those. Or you can say what's something that you can touch at the amusement park, laughing or prizes. You can't touch laughter. So that's just an example. You got to work through that on your own. Make sure you're asking questions that actually make sense. So last one, what's something that you can taste at the amusement park? You can taste cotton candy at the amusement park. And then I would just like to do a check for understanding there. But this time I usually increase the rigor, right? So I'll go from 2 choices to 3. That's just an example of something that you can do. Some of your students are only going to be able to choose from a field of 2, and that's fine. So I will say, what's something that you can taste at the amusement park? Can you taste prizes, roller coasters, or cotton candy? Which one? And then that's just an example of how you can make this activity truly engaging and making sure you're giving students a chance to give input. You might want to break them into small groups after each one, right? Like you might say like, let's talk about this question. Like, okay, break into your small groups and talk about something that you can taste at the amusement park. Have you ever tasted cotton candy? What's your favorite thing to eat? And you can break into small groups and you can have this led by a TA, 2 of your TAs. I like to say, if you only have one other support person in the room, have them take a small group. You take a small group and you just do a little turn and talk, and you might be the one who's guiding the conversation. Let's break into small groups and let's talk about something that we can taste at the amusement park. What do you like to taste at the amusement park? So I might be in a group of 4 kids who are nonverbal communicators and are not going to communicate what they like at the amusement park without my facilitation. I'll be in that group of 4 students. I'll go to each one. What's your favorite thing to taste at the amusement park? Do you like cotton candy or popcorn? and they'll make a choice, right? And we'll say, oh, Lydia loves popcorn. Who else likes popcorn? Do you like popcorn too, like Lydia does? Yes or no? It's just important to have a conversation with them. If you do not gain anything from teaching at ESY, like if you don't walk out with anything other than like one positive little tip and trick, you might already have this, but if you don't have this now, please communicate with your kids, have conversations with them. And sometimes they're going to seem a little one-sided, but they're not. You're modeling that conversation. You're letting them know that they're a part of the conversation, and you want to give them a chance to respond. Don't just say, I like cotton candy at the amusement park. Do you like it? And not give them an option to say yes or no. Or don't say, even if it sounds engaging, like, well, this one time I went to an amusement park when I was 6 years old and I had cotton candy for the first time. And it was so nice. And I love cotton candy. And I always think about that memory. Okay, well, that's your memory. That was great. Thank you. But go ahead and give the kids a chance to respond. Ask them, have you ever had cotton candy? Do you have a childhood memory that you always think about when you eat a certain thing? They don't have to tell you what it is. They just have to tell you yes or no, right? Communicate with them. Give them as many opportunities to communicate as possible. That's going to increase your engagement. You're going to see that students are more likely to participate and attend visually and verbally. Give them those opportunities. All right. So at the end of every single lesson, you're going to see the opportunity. So every day, no matter what day it is, you're going to see an opportunity to select the making connections. Let's talk about making connections. So this is an evidence-based practice. You see it in attainment curriculum where this is a part of the sentence or a part of the lesson. You want to make connections at the end of every single lesson if you can. That can be one connection. It can be all three if it's an all three connection kind of day. Maybe you need to catch up on those data points and you need a nice series of videos to give you time to do that. That is genuinely, completely okay and reasonable. You got to get those data points. And sometimes you got to pop a video on. Just make sure it's content related, right? Like we want to make sure that these videos are valuable and meaningful for our students. Like we said before, our students typically need a lot of repetition. So this is repetition for our students. So what I usually like to say is, let's make a connection. Let's touch one of these to make a connection. Either have them touch, have them choose with a voice output device, have them choose from a field of 3 visual options. It does not matter. Just engage the students. Are we going to make a connection to school, community, or world? Which one are we going to do today? Have them make that connection, have them pick. They can vote, like literally anything, engage them. Let's say they say school. You click on school, and it's going to take you to uh, a video that is going to be a connection to school. In this example, you're going to see a lot of these. They are little crafts that you can make. And yes, they're very intense, and you're probably not going to make them in your class because they are highly intense models, but it just shows them that like this is something you can make at your home. This is something you can make at school, and it's something interesting, engaging, and related to our content. So you go ahead and play that video. When you're done with it, if you're going to make more connections, you click on this button and you can go back and make those connections. If you're all done, you click all done, and it's going to take you to the last slide. And there is your lesson. If you finish this earlier than your allotted block time, we have 150 of minutes per day of ELA exposure. So that's why we have so much content for you to be able to access. So you can use this time for IEP goals. You can pop on a couple stories, read alouds. You can have your students working in, let's say, almost whole group except for one student and have that led by a teacher's assistant. It can be a read aloud while you're taking IEP goals, or vice versa. You can have them taking IEP goals while you are reading aloud. Just keep it engaging, keep it active, keep it content related. Try to keep it as content related as possible. A lot of times I will see a teacher pick out a chapter book, and they will just read little pieces of that chapter book over an extended period of time. And that is one way to keep students engaged while you are pulling them for one-to-one so that you can get IEP data. I hope this was helpful. I know it's a lot of information. If at any time you want a lesson modeled, and to see these strategies in practice, I'm happy to do that for you. It would be my pleasure. Or if you would like to watch a recorded version, chances are very high that somebody is going to ask me to model a lesson, and I can always record that and send that recording to you as well. Please do not be afraid to reach out with questions about portions, with questions about the whole thing in general. We're here to support you, and we are here to make sure that your instruction is effective as possible here during extended school year. Thank you so much.